4, 3, 2. Hello, JRock viewers. Congratulations, you've signed on to youtube.com. youtube.com. And you've clicked on this video. And your prize is Comedy with Jeffrey Jones. Now, to kick off the show, I'm going to tell you the funniest joke I have heard from my buddy Colin. Thank you very much, Colin. Okay, this kid is jacking off, right? And his father walks in and says, "Don't jack off too much, son, or you go blind." And his son's like, "Dad, I'm over here." And I'm also going to tell you this funny song I made up when I was at Burger King with my mom and my grandfather. An old man's pickup truck is full of muck, and with any luck, he will get waxed for a buck. Whatcha? And now, here's a story I have written myself. Oh, and if the freshman class from Harrington High School is watching this, I'd just like to point out that the Brianna I'm about to talk about is not the blonde-haired one from our school. It's the one I went to the 8th grade graduation dance with. Just saying. Now it's time for a wonderful Jafana story. Once there was a boy who had it all. The fame, the fortune, the publicity, everything. But when this girl comes along, he realizes he doesn't quite have everything he wants. So he walks up and introduces himself. "Hi, I'm Jeffrey." Then the girl says, "Nice to meet you, I'm Brianna." Then Jeffrey says, "You know, Brianna, you look very beautiful." And Brianna blushes. She's like, "Oh, thanks, and you're really handsome." And I say, Jeffrey says, "Thank you." Then Jeffrey asks, "Do you want to go out to dinner this Friday night?" And she says, "Wow, really? Well, that would be really awesome, Jeffrey. I'd love to." And then Jeff's thinking, "Yes, yes, yes." And Brianna's thinking the same thing and feels a bit nervous. Okay, Friday night comes. Jeff's wearing an amazing looking tux that even glows in the dark. Wow. And Jeffrey asks his butler, "How do I look?" His butler says, "You look amazing. She's gonna love you." And Jeffrey says, "I hope so." Meanwhile, at Brianna's, Brianna is wearing a very beautiful black dress and high heels. Brianna asks, "How do I look, Mom?" And her mom says, "You look beautiful, Brianna. He's gonna have an awesome time with you tonight." And by that time, Jeffrey arrives at her house and knocks on the door. And she answers. They both take a look at each other and say, "Have mercy." She says, "Jeffrey, you look amazing." And Jeffrey says, "Wow, Brianna, you look really beautiful. You're the most beautiful girl I ever seen in my life." She says, "Aw, Jeffrey, you are so sweet." Then Jeffrey says, "Shall we go?" And she says, "Oh yeah." They go to Sirloin Stockade. They order thick, juicy steaks and baked potatoes. Then, after they finish, they had ice cream, chocolate cake, a couple of milkshakes, and a couple of slices of pecan pie. My favorite. "I'm having an awesome time with you, Jeffrey," she says. Then he says, "Me too, Brianna." After they finish dinner, Jeffrey takes her home and walks her to her front door. He says, "You're a great guy, Jeffrey." And Jeffrey says, "You're a wonderful and awesome girl, Brianna." And they share what seemed like a 10-minute kiss. 7 weeks go by, and Jeff and Brianna begin to become closer to each other. They had a bond like no other. They done everything together. Played basketball, video games. They went to the movies and dinner every Friday night. It's like they've known each other their whole lives. Midnight, May 14th, 2010. Jeff and Brianna are slow dancing underneath the moonlight in her front yard. She has her head rested on his shoulder, then she lifted her head up and they kissed. Jeff says, "Hey Brianna, there's something I really want to tell you." And she's like, "What is it, Jeffrey?" And Jeffrey looks deeply in her eyes and says, "I love you, Brianna." And she has tears of happiness that are going down through her eyes. And Brianna says, "Aw, Jeffrey, I love you too." They hug and kiss. Saturday comes. Jeffrey says, "Hey Brianna, I got you something." He has a pink stuffed hippo and a moon and stars necklace for her. He gives her the pink stuffed hippo. He then puts the necklace around her neck, and as he does it, he says, "I give you the moon and stars because you already have my heart." She was so happy she cried. She then hugs him and pecks him on the cheek. "Aw, Jeffrey, you're the most wonderful boy I ever met." Later that night, Jeffrey and Brianna are sharing a Pepsi by drinking with 2 bendy straws. Brianna and Jeffrey are falling truly, madly, and deeply in love with each other. Sorry for that little error. The only thing they ever thought about was each other. It's like Jeffrey and Brianna are meant for each other. Brianna trusts Jeffrey more than anybody. She leans her head on him as they watch the unanimated version of Peter Pan. That's my favorite movie. I love you, Jeffrey. I love you too, Brianna. You mean more to me than anything. There's no girl I'd rather be with. And I would be nothing in this world if I lost you. It's like I knew I loved you before I met you. She's like, "Aw, Jeffrey, I love you so much." And he's like, "Me too, baby, me too." He sings "I Knew I Loved You" by Savage Garden. Aw, don't make me cry, Jeffrey. I'm wearing mascara. I'm really glad I have someone in my life that actually makes me feel alive. And he says, "I'm glad you feel that way, Brianna. Have I told you lately how much you mean to me?" She's like, "Yes, Jeffrey, and I'm glad you have, because I feel the same way about you." The following week, Brianna's walking down the highway really happy.